This episode is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. If you'd like to support the people that support us, you can find them at valhallahobby.com. It's also brought to you by our Patreon, one of which is listening to us at the moment. One of the perks of supporting us is that you get to listen to us record this episode live. JP has heard me do this 4 times now, and it's wonderful. I'm sure he's not bored of listening to this spiel whatsoever. If you'd like to consider that, you can find it at patreon.com/gettingtabled. Thank you very much to those that support us, and thank you for actually considering it.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you are all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people. Welcome to Getting Tabled. I am joined not by the man full of ineptitude, but instead by the man, the self-appointed world champion of humble, the biggest ego in the country, Major Socks.
Yeah, that's right. According to George and Bruce, I have the biggest ego because apparently George should be able to see me down in Alabama from his rooftop in Wyoming. That doesn't exist yet. I don't know. And we got Bruce. So
I'm also here.
yes, we got Bruce. No George, because he's having to fix the pellet stove in his house before it freezes in nowhere in Wyoming.
Yep. The state that doesn't exist. I mean, why do you even need heating in a state that doesn't exist? How can it get cold if you don't exist?
Good question.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
And we're starting off with Great Escape Games, who launched their next Kickstarter on the 31st. And they are going to be doing hard plastic mounted riders for the game. So for those that don't know, Great Escape Games do Dead Man's Hand, which is a Wild West game. One I'll be talking about a little bit later as well, because I had a demo of it at PAX.
Yeah, I mean, the models look great. I mean, it looks like on the horse sprue, you got different halves of horses that you can put together, and then horse heads, some saddlebags, some little blanket rolls.
So it looks like you're getting 5 horses on the sprue. There are different poses, which is nice, because that's always kind of the hard thing with horses, is that you tend to have lots of things that look the same after a while. But there's different bags that you can add or not add, so you can help customize them a little bit. The thing I'm really impressed by, however, is the actual riders.
Yes.
You've got different outfits. There's different styles of the upper torso. Like, you've got a full-on duster, you've got vests, you've got people just wearing shirts, you've got people that have like a jacket over the top. All of their legs are kind of a similar pose, but they would be on a horse anyway.
Yep.
You have all of the heads, like just all of the heads, including somebody wearing what is supposed to be a very old school balaclava or a sack over their head.
Great looking whipping poses and money bag hands.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You even got, I even like the Dutch oven up in the top right.
Is that what that is?
That's what it is. It's a Dutch oven for cooking.
Ah.
So I like that idea of...
Anybody else think of something else when they hear the words Dutch oven? Because that's not what I think of.
No. Yeah, it's a big, huge cast iron skillet, in other words.
Yeah.
That people would cook over campfires and stuff like that. And then you got people, hands holding lassos or ropes. And so it's very cool sprue design that they have set up for this.
Yeah. So you could very much build bandits, or you can build the lawmen, or pretty much anything in between. In theory, you can probably use this to convert with their other kits as well. I don't know that for a fact. I assume that we'll find more out about that when it goes live in 5 days. We normally wouldn't talk about somebody this small, but we know that you're a huge fan of them, Major Sock, so we always have to cover them. And we start off with a 3-wheeler. The squats have a trike coming back again. It's actually happening. Also, they call them squats. I haven't actually seen them call them that for ages. So if you want to play Entropy City and you want somebody to have a three-wheeler from a sci-fi universe, hey, just use this. It works perfectly. Truth be told, Necromunda's probably the place for this. It seems to have a lot of stuff that calls back to their old kits. So the Trikes was a classic in the original version of the squats that we had many, many centuries ago. And it's kind of one of those things that fans got upset that didn't come back. Because, you know, they tried to modernise them and make them into something more of a modernised thing, and they clearly decided to bring this back later because that's what Games Workshop do. They have a continual cycle of hype, so they won't do everything all at once. The same with the Kroot, how we didn't get the Narlock, although yes, I moaned about not getting the Narlock. But that's held back deliberately because it means that they can have a hype about bringing that in later. So, also, I think this looks really cool.
Yeah, it does look nice with the weapon mounts on the front,
yeah,
sides, and then how the driver is kind of shelled inside that canopy almost.
Yeah, it's been designed really well. The only thing I would say is it probably would have been nice to have a picture of what the original one looked like in the article, because obviously it looks very different, but it probably would have been nice for those that aren't old enough to remember what they look like, to like, hey, this is what inspired it. Which ironically is something that they usually do with this sort of stuff. They just didn't do it with this one. Also coming up, we have a new box coming for Underworlds. So we have Snappysaurus and Roomy Plague Bearers. I don't know what that word is. I've never seen that word before. Honestly, I'm just showing this off because I think the models are nice. I actually think the Seraphon look phenomenal, even though I hate them being called that. I just think they're really pretty. I'm assuming that these are also probably the only one out of them that you'll probably like, because I don't see you really getting into the Plague Bearers at all.
Nope.
Because it's just not your aesthetic. Honestly, it's not my...
No.
I'm not a Nurgle person. I'm sorry. I know that's blasphemy, but I'm just not a Nurgle person. I never have been. The Bug is cool, I guess, but that's probably the only one from them that... The rest of them just don't do anything for me. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that they don't do anything for me. I'm also never going back to Underworlds. I mean, the game itself is fun, but it's too much of a collecting fest. You can't really play it unless you buy everything, and that means that I'm just never going to play it. I might be one of the only people that don't really care that a whole heap of stuff from the first editions got turfed, because although I hate it when that happens to fan bases, this is probably a good thing for the balance of the game. Especially when it's mostly just cards and stuff. That was largely, in my opinion, probably one of the bigger problems anyway. There was just too much of it there. That might be my controversial statement of the day. Again, I actually don't like it when Games Workshop do this, and the fact that they're starting to do it more frequently, I think, is a problem. This is just not one of the ones I have a big problem with. This next one, however, makes me very happy. We are getting... Fugon is coming back. So this is the Phoenix Lord for... I have gone blank on what he's from. He's the person that leads... those guys. The guys that he's clearly leading. Oh, the Fire Dragons. So I just completely blanked on it. All of the Phoenix Lords needed to be redone. All of them from start to finish. I've said a couple... Well, my initial thought was that they should have done them all at once. Obviously, I have changed my mind on that since then. The last ones that they redid was the Striking Scorpions, I think. And at that point, I was kind of saying, no, I think this is okay. That just do them out over time. It means that they're getting constant releases. And in the case of the Xenos factions, I've always wanted them to get more releases than they were getting, so I don't want them to go back on that. And the Eldari have so many old stuff that needs to be replaced. So it's good to see that it's happening. Probably not your aesthetic. I do think this thing looks really nice, though.
Not so much of mine. Nope. I mean, he does look pretty cool. I just can see, depending on, and we'll talk about this later, depending on how you store that mini, that barrel of the weapon can be very, because it sticks up a good half-inch to an inch above the miniature itself.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to talk about that.
It is thick, though, so
angle.
in theory it should hold up okay.
Yeah.
In theory. And then, last but not least on the Games Workshop front, we have something very, very odd. Now, Socks, I want you to scroll down, and you'll start seeing pictures of the models and stuff up close. Go to look at the full gallery when it shows the full set, and see if you can tell me anything that looks weird about that to your eye. Because there's something that they're doing in this box that, to my knowledge, they have never done. Or at least haven't done in the modern day. And yes, this is going to relate to a story we have coming up later. If that's a hint.
I can't really tell.
Have a look at the terrain. It's MDF terrain.
Oh, yeah.
Games Workshop don't do MDF terrain. Everybody else does it for them. But they have pre-printed MDF terrain here. There is actually a picture further down of the actual sheet that it comes on. Like, it's fully printed. Better view of the terrain itself. I mean, it's fairly standard, I would argue, boring-looking terrain. But it's interesting that they are actually doing... There you go, there's the full sheet. It's interesting that they are actually doing MDF terrain.
Yeah.
Now, how do I know that this is MDF? If you go up to the top in the description, it actually says MDF terrain. Like I said, they've never done this that I'm aware of. Unless there are extremely old kits that are before my time. I know that they used to do articles and stuff in White Dwarf telling you how to build terrain, which is not the same thing, even if they did tell you to use MDF. But to my knowledge, they haven't. Everything they do is hard plastic. It's kind of one of the reasons that they justify their prices. I guess it's one of the things that helps them get the price down a bit, but I probably would argue that this is not a very good priced item. Let's move on to something a little bit brighter, a little bit more comfortable, something that ironically I've kind of been looking at recently. Just not this, but I have totally been looking at the Smurfs recently. Because I'm doing...
Yeah, you have.
I'm doing Smurfs for my Blood Bowl team, which I need to finish. A few years ago, and before I say this, I want to kind of point out, I'm not a brony. I've never played the game I'm going to talk about, but I do know that it was an extremely successful game. There was a My Little Pony game that was released, like a role-playing game that was released some time ago, aimed at kids, but was famously deep enough that adults could actually have fun in it as well. Which is probably because, let's be fair, there is actually a fairly decently sized adult community for that as well. I'm kind of surprised that hadn't sparked off more stuff from that era. Granted, I know that My Little Pony is kind of still around and stuff, where the Smurfs... But no, but the Smurfs
they go in waves.
Yeah, there was a whole series of movies that were okay for what they were. I mean, they weren't bad by any means, but...
and that's why I said they go in waves.
Yeah. But I'm kind of surprised I haven't really seen this. It kind of feels like it should have been a home run, right? I mean, it's been doing fairly well. It's certainly not breaking the bank as far as that's concerned. Like it has reached its goal. It's currently sitting at $117,000 of a $10,000. Oh no, it is massively exceeding the goal. I misread that.
And it still has 27 days to go. So
this is a fairly lengthy campaign. I think it was a 45-day one off the top of my head.
Oh,
but
really?
I could be wrong on that. But all of the characters are there. Although I don't remember Smurf Lily at all. That doesn't mean they didn't exist. It just means that I don't remember them. I kind of feel like there's a whole heap of characters here that exist because there was only one female in the original. I could be wrong on that. I could just not know my lore, well enough. I kind of like the fact that the dice are unique. I mean, they are kind of just normal dice, but the colors are extremely suitable.
Yeah.
Everything feels very cartoony in the way that it's been designed. The book is also really pretty as well. I mean, the special edition rulebook obviously is prettier, but even the base core game, like the boring version of the two rulebooks, still looks phenomenal. It comes with an adventure map, which is a fairly decent size, honestly. I would imagine that that's paper? It doesn't say. Standees, and they appear to be... It's either MDF printed or it's
Cardstock.
Cardstock.
One of the two.
I want to say... It might be... I think it's cardstock by the look of it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be fair. Like, this is not the sort of thing that you're probably going to find minis of. In saying that, it would have been a pretty easy opportunity to do something that nobody is doing. I don't know of anybody that's doing miniatures for Smurfs. I don't know if there's really a huge call for it either. I mean, yes, granted, I am kind of doing this at the moment, but that doesn't mean that there's an audience for it. I have a habit of doing things because somebody suggests what I think is a stupid idea and then I get hooked on it.
JP said that the girls Smurfs are from the comics.
Are they? Okay. Thanks, JP. I did thought that it could have been one or the other, but I just wasn't 100% sure. I think they're hitting this out of the park. I think this is done really, really well. Somebody had also made a joke about if this means that the Snorks are coming as a stretch goal. At this stage, no. There is nothing mentioning this on the Snorks. For those that don't know, Snorks was a TV show that, as far as I know, from a TV show perspective, I don't know if they were ever connected in canon. But it is a spin-off of the original Smurfs comic books, is where those Snorks come from. I had to look up, I had to kind of research this when they asked the question, because I'm like, I don't remember them ever being connected. And I looked it up, and no, they were connected. Bit of a surprise for you. You never talk about this game.
No, never. I mean, it's not like I'm a war host or anything like that either. So, so War Cradle Studios has announced its November releases for Dystopian Wars, but also for Armored Clash.
This is the surprise. There is actually genuinely a surprise. We wasn't expecting this to happen this quickly. The war hosts weren't expecting this to happen this quickly.
No, because we were, according to War Cradle, the Union for Armored Clash wasn't going to come out until November or winter of 2024. We all thought early next year, but obviously they want to try and get it out before the holiday sales, and so, which I think is a great way to advertise the game more, get more people into the game. But first off, we're going to be showing the Senator Battle Fleet for Dystopian Wars. Yep. And great new battle fleet. You've got 3 cruisers and a bunch of destroyers, some frigates, and then some flyers. You actually get aerial escorts for the Unions. They are the second faction to get an aerial escort. The Imperium were the first. So that's what the smaller little flyers are. And then you got their ground landers. And then you get some new submarines too. And then you get some SRS tokens. And you also get the ground tokens for Armored Clash, because as we know, coming up later on in the Armored Clash campaign set, there's going to be a campaign box which is going to link the two together. And so we're going to be seeing more of these SRS tokens, generic or specific for each faction. So good overview of all the fleets. And then the Lakota SRS token. The Lakota is the Union land ship. We'll actually see that in the next set of video pictures for when we go into the Armored Clash videos. And then you get the Puritan submarine automata. Some are saying that this may be a suicide kamikaze style of submarine where it goes off and blows up next to it. We'll have to see what the Orbat rules are, but that's what people saw in the earlier Orbat rules for Union. And then you get your aerial escorts, as I mentioned. And then you get some basic Chicago cruisers, Wisconsin long-range assault ship, the Philadelphia, and then Nashville, and then the Midway long-range landing ship. So that's your landing ship that you'll use those armor class SRS tokens for. And then you have your Senator command cruiser. And so based off of what people are thinking, you'll use 2 cruiser sprues to build that one.
That would make sense. It's a much
larger kit. But also because it's a command cruiser as well. So you'll be that comes in a set of 2. So you'll build 2 of those out of the 3 that you could build, because based off the scopes you'll need to use off the sprues. So pretty cool looking set coming out for Union. I'm excited to see more stuff coming out. I know people were wondering what happens with Dystopian Wars, but obviously Armor Clash is kind of their focus right now, but obviously they want to still let people know that Dystopian Wars is on their background as well. Moving on, we've got the
quickly before
Union...
you do, is it wrong that my favorite thing in this box is the tiny little insignificant submarine?
No.
Because my favorite thing in this box is the tiny little insignificant submarine.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, it's a cool looking little submarine.
It's very simple, but I just seem to like it for some reason. Also, just because I have to do this all the time, something Wild West Exodus. I want Wild West Exodus stuff.
I think we'll be getting that in the future.
Give me what I want.
I know you do. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing that what we're seeing with TT Combat and Drop
We'll get a new edition
Fleet, Drop Zone.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. That way they can bring all 3 games into a combined grand campaign type, kind of like what we're seeing with Drop Squad Commander eventually. And then we got the Union Faction Battle Group starter set, and then they're also going to have an introductory set as well. But we'll look at the starter set, or both boxes there.
Ooh,
and then there's your Lakota
heavy rail is nice.
Yes, so that is made out of resin. People are saying that those couplers in the middle, you can put magnets on the top and bottom, and they magnetize together, and so you can choo-choo train that across the board as you go across. And it's hovers as well, so it can carry troops. It has all those gun mounts on the couple of those cars, and so it's a nice looking heavy land ship for the Union.
You should be able to magnetize those gun turrets too.
Correct. You should be able to.
There's a version with and without, so you can kind of build it so that you can use pretty much any way you want, really.
Any one of them. Yep. And then we have the Pacifier Heavy Infantry Platoons. Some cool looking guys that are very much showcased off of the Wild West Exodus scopes, the 35 millimeter scopes. That's what they drew this inspiration from. Then you got the Hotchkiss revolving cannon. So a nice, good ground artillery unit. And then the Blazer heavy cavalry. So some
which is also inspired from Wild West Exodus.
Yep, absolutely. Then you have that Iron Horse. So different.
That is the classic Wild West Exodus one. That one. This is the classic look.
Yeah, and then you have your Federal Troopers, some more infantry, and then you get the Blazer again. So really cool looking stuff coming out. I'm excited to see this. This gives me hope because I'm waiting for my Imperium, and they are saying spring. So just roll that into your February. Come on, War Cradle, just roll that into February and January, and just call that your spring.
Make him wait till August.
That's when my Alliance is supposed to come out. So
that'll have to be December.
Or no, sorry, my Sultanate's supposed to come out in August of next year.
That'll have to be December then.
Make me wait that up. Oh, thanks.
I'm not saying to delay everything, just delay everything that he wants. Just him.
Oh, fine. Thanks, Bruce. So, and even though I don't have any players right now, I'll show some stuff that I got this week during hobby time. So
nice. All right. Up next, we have some new stuff coming from RTLW. So this is a company that does third-party sculpts for games that may or may not be related to Warhammer. They're definitely not for Warhammer, but they may be related in some way. They've been doing a whole heap of stuff for October. The Orc is probably the main one that I'm looking at here because he's oh so pretty and oh so big and chunky. He's 40 mil tall.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I don't like is the use of the S word on his belt. I'm just not a fan of the slave word.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea... The idea is clear, but it's just not something I'm comfortable with. There's too many connections.
It's not
with that.
needed.
Like, I get it. It's Warhammer 40k. Everything is supposed to be horrible. But there are better ways that you could have worded it.
Yeah.
It just feels like you're using word for the sake of using it. I don't mind pushing buttons, but there needs to be a reason for it. And there just doesn't feel like there is for that. It just feels like, ooh, let's see if we can upset people.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when orcs already have a few things that are kind of problematic already. The Gorespire Overseers is very, very interesting. So this feels... I want to say this feels very Mad Maxy. That's not really where it comes from, but it's the feeling it gets. And this can be built in a couple of different ways. You can build this as like this almost imperial style person that's been corrupted, or you can go full on demon queen type look as well. With, again, some very suggestive... RTLW do like to do suggestive things here and there. I like the fact that there's different options, so it doesn't have to be as suggestive if you don't want it to be. Which is the way that people should be doing it, because not everybody wants to go in that full direction. I know that there's an audience for it, but not everybody wants to be that. And you should be advertising your models so that everybody could, in theory... Like, there's nothing wrong with suggestive. There's nothing wrong with suggestive at all. But if you want to sell models, you want to have it so that everybody can enjoy them, not just that one person that wants to go in that full direction. There's also a full squad that you can buy of those maidens as well. And there's also a squad that you can get... there's also a leader for the Skull Raisers as well, which is very, very Space Marine-y.
Yeah.
And massively huge. This one can also be built in a couple of ways. So you can build him as you've seen, but there's also like a hooded version as well. So you can go as uncomfortable with this as you really want to. The hood is very reminiscent of something that's very uncomfortable to see. That may start with a K. In the world of 40k, probably makes a bit of sense that it's there. Only thing I would probably say is that I'm hoping that people don't paint them up that way, because then you're going to be that guy or girl, and you don't want to be that guy or girl. There is a line that you don't want to cross there. I don't know if it's deliberate. It may not be. It could just be that it's just meant to be a cultist head. But you don't see that hooded thing, and it's not inspired by that.
No.
Generally speaking. Everything else on this page we've seen before. Up next, we have some ducks. We looked at Epic Duck a little while ago, who'd been doing a whole series of ducks. The Astral Duckron is a different version of one we've seen already, which is all well and good. But if you start scrolling across, this is where things get interesting. Because we have a Nightmare Killer rubber duck, which is definitely not Freddy Krueger, and I'm surprised that you would even suggest that, Socks.
Yep.
We also have a Crystal Pond Killer, which is definitely not Jason Voorhees. I'm surprised that you'd even say that, Socks. Why am I blaming Socks? Because I can. This is definitely my favourite of them. I love the fact that it's Crystal Pond and not Crystal Lake. It just works really well.
Yeah.
We then have an Astral Marine rubber duck. So there's a version that has a pistol and one that doesn't have a pistol. And then we have a Halloween Killer that is not to be confused with the guy who played Shrek.
No.
Michael Myers. I thought that was a nice little touch. And then we've also got a Tyranid one. And I think that's... Oh, no, there's another one. So there's a Tyranid one, which is kind of cool. And then there's the only one that I don't get what it's from. So there's a Burlap Kid rubber duck. And I don't quite get what this is supposed to be from. So if you know what this is from, please let me know. it makes me think Nightmare Before Christmas, but I don't think that's what it's supposed to be.
I thought there was another horror movie. I'm not big into the horror movies, but I thought there was a horror movie where the main villain wore
Texas
burlap over the head.
Texas Chainsaw doesn't.
Remember.
He wears like human skin over his face. I don't know. I don't know what this is from, so somebody's going to have to point it out to me. Somebody will know. People love to correct me.
JP's type Scarecrow? I don't know.
Scarecrow makes sense. Then TT Combat have... that link didn't work. Interesting. Okay, TT Combat have a Kickstarter that's coming up, which we need to talk about. So, it's an MDF Kickstarter. So, something else I'm going to come back to in a minute. There is a thought here. So, this is, let's be fair, this is aimed at the Warhammer community. I am just going to say that out loud. This is very much who they're aiming at for this. They are not saying that, of course. This is just really cool pre-printed terrain. This is how you receive... Well, this is how it's painted when you receive it. In theory, you could probably take this even further if you wanted to. But I think you could just build this and you would be fine. There is actually a couple of different ways that they've shown this off. But the detail on this... So, we've seen pre-printed MDF before. This is not new technology. Like, quite literally, we were looking at somebody else doing it a second ago.
Yep.
But the previous ones that we looked at was like real-world type stuff. There has been other ones that aimed specifically at the Warhammer community. But I think this is probably the best I've seen as far as pre-paint is concerned. The detail on this just looks really, really nice. It's not something I'm personally excited by. For two reasons. Drop Squad Commander was supposed to be this year. That's what we were told. It's very clearly not happening this year now. It's obviously going to be next year, which is fine. Hopefully that's because they've got something that they want to improve. The other thing is that Louis himself told me that we were getting Home Raiders this year, and now that clearly isn't happening either. At the time when he told me this, it was supposed to be the first thing that was being kickstarted this year, and then that didn't happen. Now, sure, that's fine. That happens. Maybe it wasn't ready yet. I kind of feel like this is just kind of something that's been... It doesn't feel planned.
No.
Is the thing with this. Now, I'm not shitting on it. Like, this is something that is probably going to do very well financially.
Yeah.
There has been a lot more shown off over the last couple of weeks, and it all looks very impressive. A few posts down, there's one of a Marine in front of a bloody wall with art stuck around it. It's extremely impressive. That particular kit is... something I haven't really seen done very well before. But it's phenomenal. And the target audience for this is going to lap this up. It's just not something that I'm personally excited for, because it's not something I already have enough terrain that I'm never going to use.
Yeah.
Also, I don't play 40k, so... I mean... I could probably stretch this like the staircase. I could probably stretch it to fit Entropy City. It'd be a hell of a stretch, though. Like, none of the artwork on it would make any sense, apart from blood, maybe. I can understand why it's happening. Like I said, it's just not something that's exciting for me, personally.
We know how well TT Combat does their MDF terrain. I mean, they put out great kits and stuff like that, so we know this is going to do well. It's kind of a shock to some of us that were expecting... other stuff to come out and ready to go. But again,
I mean, from the Drop Squad side of things, I mean, realistically, holding off until a little bit after Dropfleet probably makes sense from a business point of view, because then Dropfleet's probably going to be eating into some of the money that Drop Squad was going to want, because there's going to be a huge percentage of that audience that's going to cross over. Yes, you will get people that's new to the universe as well, but there's a large percentage of that that's going to have already been buying Dropfleet and therefore don't have money for Drop Squad. Can't really say that for Home Raiders, though. Maybe they've lost faith in Home Raiders? I hope not, because it's a really cool idea. This is the one where the miniatures aren't miniatures, they're actually real size scale, and you just play on coffee tables and kitchen tables, and like you just play wherever you are. It's designed for a younger audience, and there is openly people out there looking for that sort of stuff at the moment. I mean, those people are always going to be out there looking for that stuff anyway, I suppose, so it's not like delaying it will be a problem. During the recording of this episode, Major Socks and I accidentally forgot to discuss one of the stories that we wanted to talk about. A very quick 5-minute look at the Biophycer sprues that's available in the 2-player starter set for Dropfleet Commander, how you can build them. We discuss magnetization and push fitting the models. This specific section is referring to images quite frequently, so if you're someone that normally listens to the podcast, it might be worth you specifically checking out the video version of this podcast when it's released this Thursday. So first things first, with the Dropfleet Commander version 2 starter set, I want to point out, like, this first image shows just how tightly packed this box actually is. There is quite a lot in here. The artwork on the front is quite nice as well. Granted, it's very reminiscent of the original artwork, but that is certainly not a criticism in this case. It looks absolutely phenomenal. I think the first thing I want you to see looking at these pictures that we got access to is the style of the sprue themselves. So this is hard plastic, but the thing I want to point out is just how tightly packed all of this is. They haven't been cutting any corners with this. They've done a really nice job of it. And I think that's very clear just by looking at these pictures here. This particular image is just showing off all of the Biophycer stuff that you get in the starter set. It's 5 sprues. Really, again, everything is tightly packed. It's not just a matter of one sprue. All of them are very tightly packed. It's a really nice thing to see. The next thing that should be sticking out to people is one of the things that I've had a massive bugbear on for a long time. The sprue gates on these are very nicely placed. They've all been placed against surfaces that you'll easily be able to clean up. There's none of this, it's sitting on detail, it's all sitting on the edge, which is really good to see because it makes it easier. The actual connection points are very thin as well, which is a really nice thing to see. And basically what that means is one of the reasons why I kept on harping on about this in previous releases was, honestly, this makes it a lot more accessible for new players. Just one last example here of what the actual sprues look like. Here we have a picture of the frigate base hull. Everything looks very, very nice. The detail, as you can see up close, is absolutely magnificent. And a picture of the weapons as well, to again give you an idea of just how much detail is in this. I think the detail in this might actually be better than the original releases. We've also been able to confirm that the weapon slots have been designed so that they will slot in from one side, but not the other. This is a deliberate design. And the reason that they've done that is because it actually hides the attachment point, which is a really nice idea. The other big part about this is that almost everything in these sprues can be push fit. Almost. I will touch a little bit more on this in a moment. But here is an example of what I'm trying to describe with these weapons. One of the biggest features in Dropfleet Commander that nobody really talked about enough is that everything could be magnetized. Now granted, the plastic sprues were easier at this than the resin kits were, but everything could be magnetized, which meant you could buy one kit and then build everything from that quite literally. And not only am I very happy to announce that these are the same, they have been designed to work that way quite deliberately, but I'm also happy to say that not only can it be magnetized, but there is a huge part of these kits that will just simply push fit and stay in place. This is something that Dave's design and that TT Combat themselves should be awarded for. It's been done really well. This goes for the frigates and the cell ships. The cruisers, however, do not push fit as well. We'd be recommending that you magnetize those if this is the path that you want to take. Like the older kits, if you're wanting to build a heavy cruiser, you will need 2 sprues to get all of the parts that you need, but only if you're wanting to use all of the same weapons, as there's only one of each on the sprue. This is similar to how they were done in the old one, and nothing that's unreasonable. The bulk lander part that's actually shown here is something that doesn't fit through the main hull as well. It sits very loosely, and we'd be recommending to magnetize this instead. In this example, Michelle has used a bit of blue tack to hold it together just to show you what it actually looks like. It doesn't sit as flush and as tightly as the other pieces did. So again, if you're wanting to magnetize this particular one is definitely going to be needing a magnet. Or you could just use blue tack like he has here. Ultimately, the Biophysis sprues had a lot to live up to, and I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that they've lived up to that. We had some very strong expectations because we were part of the original Kickstarter on this. We were part of the people that were extremely excited for this. The resin kits up until now have also continued to be nice, but none of them have really rivaled what was available on those original plastic sprues. The original sprues were among some of the best hard plastic ships that's ever been released in the industry. And now, those horrible people at that lovely company called TT Combat have done it again and released more stuff that I now want to buy and can't afford to. It's really mean of them. They need to stop releasing nice products. It's just not fair. I really want the Biophysis now. Meanies. Let's talk about the Germans. Specifically, some bolt-action Germans. We have a German veteran infantry platoon coming.
Platoon.
And miniatures-wise, these things look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like,
really nice. So on the platoon, you're going to get 30 miniatures. So some really good amount of 28 mil hard plastic minis. And having played bolt action, their minis are really nice. They can be a little difficult to put together.
It's the sort of thing where you need to know what you're building before you build it, from what I understand.
Absolutely.
Because this is one of those communities that's like, that doesn't have enough buttons, it's not the right miniature.
Not just that, but the way the weapon types, absolutely. The weapon types can be a little bit tricky to get especially if they're holding them across their bodies. Like we see with the guys standing up, it can be kind of sometimes a little bit difficult to get the shoulder joints and the wrist joints where they normally connect to line up together. So.
My least favorite style of mini is this one. Because it's always... It doesn't matter who it's by. It can be by Infinity. It can be by Games Workshop. I think Games Workshops are better now because you can only build them in one way. Although that is actually a problem too. But like this style of mini, which is probably the most iconic style of mini, is always the most difficult to build. There is actually a starter set coming out for this army as well. So some of these pictures we've just seen in the other one. But more importantly...
You're just going to get 6 more minis, and that's probably going to be your command section.
Yeah.
Maybe a heavy weapons team.
36. It also comes with a veteran officer, an NCO, a medic, a radio operator. It comes with a medium machine gun and a mortar team.
Yep. And then a tank and a armored car as well.
Yep.
So
it should be good. No, they haven't shown off the armored car or the tank yet. I suspect it's probably one that it does tell you which ones they are, but
and they have those models already, so it's just you could just go look into their weapon scopes and just see what they have. You can tell, you'll be able to tell what kind of armor car and Panzer IV you're going to get.
Yeah. So I mean, I think realistically, this is the box that you buy. The other one is if you're wanting to add it to one of your existing. Or if you're wanting to add it to this afterwards, I suppose. Like, I really want more troops than I've got or whatever.
Have a second platoon. Yep, absolutely.
To this. So, we have a brand new kit that's coming out. And yes, there's a reason why Sox has just laughed. Because this is a complete setup. So, Nemegnian Studios doesn't exist. It's not a real company. That is the name of Michelle's hometown.
Thanks, Shay. I appreciate that. And welcome to the podcast, too, by the way.
Michelle.
He said No, Shay's the one Shay mentioned in our Patreon chat, needs someone sitting at a desk.
I originally had this in the run sheet as Air Force Argelian officer, but I changed it to field officer because that's what a major is. But I was like, no, I can't. I'd set it up as like this fake URL as well. And Michelle, I've butchered your hometown. I'm sorry, but I don't know how to pronounce it.
Nijmegen.
Nijmegen?
Mm-hmm.
Nijmegen Studios sounds like a cool company name, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Cream, glue, prime, paint.
What have you been up to, Socks, or do you want me to start? I've got a bit, so I could start, then you can go, and then I can finish.
That works.
All right. So, I wasn't here last episode because I was at PAX Australia.
Someone was having fun.
I was having fun. It was great. I had a great time. So, unlike last year, I got to enjoy it just as a regular person this year. I didn't enjoy last year, and that's not because it's not because I'm having a go or because... I just didn't have the opportunity to enjoy it because I was busy doing other things. So I kind of very deliberately was like, no, I'm just going to go as a person this time. So I bought my weekend pass. When the opportunity came to apply for things, I deliberately didn't apply because I just wanted to be a person this year. So over the course of the weekend, it was one of my good friends was down from Canberra, and it was his first time going to the event. So I kind of spent a lot of time with him, kind of taking him around. He ended up buying everything for Drop Bear after being introduced to what it was. So now I have a copy of Drop Bear sitting down there. That video came out this week.
Yep.
And he has a copy as well. So we went off to his brother's workplace, dropped off his copy there so that he didn't have to carry it around all day. And then about an hour later, we went to the board game library and we borrowed a copy of Drop Bear to play. We both own a copy. We didn't play either of those. We bought a copy that was at the thing already. And we got absolutely destroyed. It was magnificent.
That's fun.
It's an extremely difficult game. Deliberately. But yeah, extremely difficult. I also did a demo of Dead Man's Hand. Now, ironically, I want to say this happened on day 3. Was it day 3 or day 2? It might have been day 2. Eugene and Bjorn, which is 2 friends from my group, they were both at there, and they'd kind of been trying to get to that table all weekend and hadn't really had a chance to. So, well, yeah, we can hang around till somebody's ready. And we got there and they'd just gone off for lunch 2 or 3 minutes before we arrived. And then we kind of hung around for a bit, and then it was like, well, they're not going to be back until this time. We will come back at that time. And somebody beat us there by 2 minutes. So we hung around again until they were done. And then it was like, well, Eugene and you can play, and I'll just watch. I was like, oh, well, okay. Because I wasn't really there to play. I was kind of supporting them wanting to play. And unfortunately, I had a really good time, and I really enjoyed the game. I mean, first things first for me, I was like, oh, this would actually be a really good way for me to get some more use out of my Wild West Exodus minis.
Yeah.
Because I have the Warrior Nation, which is native peoples, and they feel more real world, apart from a few exceptions, than what a lot of the other armies do, because that's kind of meant to be their thing. I mean, there are some that are werewolf-looking things and bear-looking things and stuff, which obviously I wouldn't use, but in the case of, there's one that's it's literally just a Native American taking a shot with a rifle, and there are other ones that, they just have the tomahawks, or they just have guns, or it would just work really easily. I could also buy stuff, but I'm refusing to buy stuff, in theory.
For now.
The starter set for Dead Man's Hand is actually really good value, which doesn't help either.
No.
Because it comes with kits to build pretty much whatever you want. It comes with hard plastic terrain, the proper version of the rule. It comes with everything. It's a really decently priced set. So I had an amazing weekend. I kind of tried to check out as much as I could. like most years, there's like it's not quite enough to fill all 3 days, but it's enough to always have something to do. Like I stopped by Platypus Industries and had a bit of a chat. And he actually came past us when we were playing, asking how we were going, and then laughed at us when we lost. Like I said, it was a really, really good weekend. I had a great time.
Nice.
What have you received, Socks?
So, thanks to Valhalla Hobby, I got 2 sets of dice. So this is 1 set's worth. So I got 2 of those. So a total of 48 dice. 2 deck of cards. And my rules for Armor Clash.
Nice.
So
you got 2 of everything except for the rulebook.
Except for the rulebook. Yep. Because why do I need 2 rulebooks?
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I could just play with my son and he can read the rules.
That's fair. And if you're showing other people, then they're just going to expect you to show them anyway. Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly. And depending on what sets I get for the Imperium, I'm going to get another set of rules from them too. So that's whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've read through some of the rules so far. I'm really excited to actually find some time and pull out my.
What is this time you speak of, Socks?
I don't know, because I'm in the middle of writing another 6-page paper, and I'm dealing with house issues still, which we can talk about that later, off air, how that's going. But yeah, between all this stuff, school, trying to spend some time with the family as well, my hobby is that's been my hobby, is setting up that, and it's still sat like that. I haven't really done anything with it, so hopefully my next year, when I'm actually teaching at one of the officer schools, I'll have more hobby time, when I'm not reading hundreds of pages and writing papers. I knew this year was going to be very, very busy, but I wasn't expecting it to be this busy. But
well, you wasn't expecting all of the house stuff to happen. Like, that should not have happened. There's no excuse for it. Yes.
Yeah, and that. But I do want to try and pull out some drop zone commander stuff and just use those as proxies until I can get my Imperium stuff. So that's why I bought the starters, the rules, and a couple of sets of dice and a couple of deck of cards. That way I could kind of play through it until I get my Imperium.
Yeah.
Plus, one of my sons, he wants the Covenant and then the Enlightened stuff, and the other one wants some Commonwealth as it comes out. So, I mean, we'll have 3 armies here within the next 6 months or so, between myself and my 2 boys wanting to get their own stuff. So we'll have some stuff. And so if we understand the rules using proxy units, we'll be ready to go when our stuff actually arrives. So, and is released. So that's what I've been up to, is reading rule books while I'm not wanting to read my stack of 30 books that are sitting right here next to me of military warpower and national security strategy.
Yep.
Political stuff, U.S. political agendas. So
while I was at PAX, I finally received my copy of Deathship 1, which is written by the same guy that did Frostgrave and stuff. This is one that he had published himself. So this is not an Osprey thing. This is something that he's done himself. Artwork inside of this is actually really, really nice. Just a little bit of a teaser. Kind of just like shows that you can have a really nice looking rulebook without spending $1 million on artwork. Like, you can just have simple artwork and it still works. I've been kind of making a habit of trying to pick up indie rulebooks here and there as I go. Specifically for stuff that I'm at least vaguely interested in playing. Especially if it's miniature agnostic, where I can go to pick up whatever I want and play with it. See also Death Wizards. Because it kind of helps me with my project, right? Because what's going to happen? Like, do I really need to have absolutely gorgeous artwork? I mean, I'd certainly love to have absolutely gorgeous artwork.
Yeah.
But how big does the project end up being? Maybe I don't end up being able to afford to have a Games Workshop style rulebook
layout.
Just maybe I can't afford that. Or maybe the game ends up being sold to somebody, and then that becomes their problem. I don't know.
Yeah.
On Friday, I got to play Cthulhu Death May Die again.
Nice.
So the last time we played, we lost twice. And ironically, we actually found out this week that one of the ways that we died shouldn't have happened because we read the rules wrong.
Oops.
Yep. We also don't remember whose fault it was. At first, me and Eugene thought it was my fault, and then somebody else said that no, they were the ones that set it off. So if you can remember who it was that was at fault, because I'm pretty sure I said it if it was me or not at the time, let us know in the comments, I suppose. But this time, we actually won. We defeated the bad guy. We actually won. We were playing exactly the same mission that we were last time. Like, we didn't get distracted trying to kill off the stuff that didn't matter. We kind of focused on trying to take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got to a point at the end, we did lose one person after we were allowed to have somebody die. Because there's a certain point in the game where if anybody dies, you lose automatically. But once Hasta actually comes out, you can actually have people die. Because at that point it's, well, assuming that you've stopped the ritual, you can then have people actually die.
Yeah.
And we managed to get there. There was one more step before we would have lost the game. We managed to get through all 36 hit points. And we got to a one point where it's like, well, I can do it on my next turn. Yeah, but that's all good, dude. You're not going to get a turn. Because there's 4 people here that can also finish this. There's no way it's going to be your turn next.
Yeah.
And then he ended up being destroyed by the very next person in line, which was Eugene. So it was quite nice. And if Eugene had failed, the next person was going to be rolling 8 dice against him. So there's no way he was going to get past that. And if he had have got past that, then I had 5 dice that I was going to throw at him.
Yeah.
I was playing Rasputin, and I was just it was lovely. Entropy City wise, I've been working on the rules for Entropy City again, and I am reaching a point of testing where all of the character stats are actually going to start getting tested as well. I've just gotten to a point where I'm like, I'm just going to do it, and I'm just going to start seeing if it works, and I'm just going to start balancing it from here. Because half testing certain things to see if they work is all well and good, but there's enough things that, there's a few balancing things that people point out, so everything kind of feels the same at this stage with certain things. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's because I'm not testing this thing that's going to make that different.
Mm-hmm.
We got protection being implemented, and basically, not only does that kind of potentially protect you from incoming attacks, but is also what you test against to try to get back on your feet once you've crashed. You have an actual strength characteristic that is you trying to pick your bike up and get it started. Sorry, no. One of them is to get it started. The other one is to see if you actually take the wound. And yeah, there's a few other ones as well. So, rules-wise, everything on the Entropy City channel on our Discord, which is Patreon only, has been updated. So you can actually go in there. I think I need to put a new version of the rules in there. I don't remember if I've actually shared the new cards or not. I think I need to share the new cards. But otherwise, I'm out there ready to test again at this point. So, but we're going to play Cthulhu Death May Die again on Friday. So I won't be able to play test for at least another week.
Nice.
Painting-wise, I haven't really done a lot. The only other thing I want to point out, and I'm only going to mention this because I'm curious if anybody actually makes a comment or not. I complained at one point that this wasn't happening. This is Combat Patrol for Crit. Because I don't really want to play full-on 40k. I just wanted to kind of do the easy mode, right? And when Combat Patrol was happening, there was rumours that we were going to get it for Crute. I was like, oh, awesome. So that means I can do it with Crute. I definitely have a reason to buy them. So I did buy them. And then it didn't happen. And then I kind of lost that passion that I had. Where I was destroying these models. I was getting through them really well. And then I kind of lost my passion because the way I wanted to use them didn't happen.
Yeah.
It is actually out now. What's it been? 6 to 8 months? Yeah. I'm curious if people want me to actually go through this and actually do a video on it. My theory is that I finish the models and then go through them on the tabletop and like just explain how the rules work for them. Keeping in mind, I'm not necessarily a competitive person. I'm not that way inclined. But let me know if you think it'd be good or not.
Talk nerdy to me.
What's the thing that we have too many things of, Socks? Maybe not you, but me and George has too many things of.
Miniatures.
Yep. And what do you have to do with those things, Socks, when you're not playing with them?
You got to store them somehow, or you got to display them.
Yeah.
Either one.
Guess what we're talking about? It's storing versus display. I want to say from the outset, once again, this is another one of those topics that I've kind of come up with that doesn't really have a right answer. Like, this could go either way.
Yep.
My first thought is not everything should be displayed because not everything is display quality, or not everything is your best work, unless you're evil and horrible and way better at painting than I am, and therefore I hate you forever. No, I'm being facetious, obviously. But for those like those, everybody has few select models that they are genuinely very proud of.
Yeah.
I actually do have some in my display cases back here. Not everything is my best work, but everything that is displayed is stuff that I'm proud of enough that I will actually show them off. Because it's been enough times where I've kind of been like, everything is in stock. Because I didn't have display for a long time. I had nowhere to put anything. My housemate did. And I had a couple of things out in his display case just because I'm like, you know what, this is extra really nice. I'm very proud of it. Like my T-Rex. I'm massively proud of that T-Rex. It turned out magnificently. And I'm very proud of the stuff that I did for Rumble Slam. Not all of it's my best work, but it looks quite nice. I quite deliberately did a different skin tone for every single one of the human characters to try to make it like diverse. Just because I wanted to see if I could paint them all different. There was a couple of skin tones that I really didn't know if I could paint well or not. I think I could have done better, in all honesty, but I'm still very proud of it. But on the other side of things, like, storage is a problem in this hobby. It's... I don't want to put words in Colleen's mouth, but I suspect that it's probably one of the bugbears that she would have, even though you don't have a collection anywhere near the size of ours.
Probably not. But with me moving all the time, I don't have the luxury of having nice display cases like you do.
Yeah.
Because I don't want those broken. Yeah, I could get reimbursed for them, but that's extra weight I have to worry about. And when I can just get foam cases and foam trays. That way it's soft and squishy and a little bit of protection for when they're moving.
Yep.
I can...
Where's your foam from?
Game Plus Studios. Game Plus Products, which they just came back out with. They were out for a while, and they just got them back out in stock. So I'm very happy. And they run between 1 inch all the way up to like 6 inches.
Okay.
Thick, in about 7.5 by 13 sheets. So, and it's all plug foam. So, as you can see here, I've kind of got some of my Sultanate as I drop them. Don't worry.
Well done.
That's good. Yep. As I got my Sultanate kind of blocked out, ready to pluck out.
Nice. So I've got a couple of different... I've gone through a few different solutions. My main storage solution at this stage is either A, the box that they came in, or more like the stuff that needs to be stored because in theory I'm going to play with it more, which is another problem, is pretty much stored in my battle foam bags. Because I made investments into battle foam quite a while ago. Like I have both magnetic versions as well as the foam. There tends to be a strong audience where it's like, well, it should be this or it should be that. But realistically, I'm going to say that it's not so much that magnets or foam is better than one or the other. it depends on the miniatures. If your miniatures are spiky and have long, sharp points on them, foam is not going to be your friend, because that will end up being broken inside of them. At the same time, if you're on a motorbike, magnets is not the way. I can pretty much tell you this for a fact. If you are traveling on a motorbike, don't bother magnetizing your models. They will just shatter on the road. If you have to go over one speed bump, all of them are going to come off. I have a fairly unique situation in that, because most people don't have this problem. Most people are in cars. But nevertheless, it still is an issue. So I just thought I should raise that.
Yep.
If you had the opportunity to actually display stuff, which, I mean, you kind of do. I mean, you could put stuff on boxes behind you, I suppose. It would kind of look a little silly, but you could. You've got your shelving back there where you're displaying your Lego.
My Legos.
Yeah, in theory, you could do that with your
miniatures. Yeah, I could
instead.
do some of my miniatures. Yep, you're absolutely right.
If you were to display stuff tomorrow, do you know what you would display?
Probably my PHR Dropfleet stuff. Primarily because that's one of the only things that I have truly painted up a large number of stuff that is almost complete. I've got a few things here and there to finish up, but out of everything that I have on my paint of shame shelves, that's the most complete. So that'd probably be it.
For me, I've kind of touched on a few already. Like my T-Rex for Conquest, although I never actually ended up playing Conquest, I was really into it at some point, and that T-Rex was a huge motivation. I've actually sold off a lot of the stuff that I hadn't built. I love Conquest. It's a great game. But mass battle games for me becomes a problem, because I just don't get through the hobby stuff for it. Because most of my focus has to be on Entropy City at this stage, and even then I waver. And I prefer to be a person that plays multiple things as opposed to I'm only playing this game. It's just the way that I'm wired, I think. And if I was to just focus on one game, there's probably two other things that would take that spot. One of them's Malifaux, because it used to be that at one point. And I do still love the game enough where it would be that. The other one is one that I haven't actually played for a couple of years, which is Wild West Exodus. Love that game. Desperately want to play more of it. I also probably should paint my stuff for it. Most of my stuff for it's unpainted. But no, that T-Rex is one of my proudest works, because it just turned out really well. Part of that was I was testing speed paints 1.0 at the time. I said it before and I'll say it again. The original speed paint worked. It was never faulty. It just didn't work in the way that people wanted it to work. It didn't make the product faulty or a mistake. They did change the formula, and the new formula, I'm reluctant to say it's better, but the new formula worked in a way that people were happier with from a general order. Because it had the issue of if you got 1.0 wet, it would reactivate. I never had that happen to me. I'm not saying that it wasn't a problem. I'm not saying that people made it up. There is evidence that it was a real problem. Also, Army Painter acknowledged that it wasn't an issue. It was designed to work that way on purpose. It's just people didn't like it. So but one of the things I was doing with that T-Rex is I was doing that in certain areas so I could see how it matched up against other paints. Because if you tried doing that with contrast back in the day, it was really obvious what was contrast and what wasn't, because they had a different finish on them. Whereas the speed paint was very matte, so it just worked automatically. My Rumble Slam, I really got excited about when I was painting, and it was the first true orcs that I really did. It's the first time that I'd ever used the army painted dips as opposed to washes. Like, you know how you can get the cans and you dip your thing in, and so I didn't do that. I brushed it on, which is fine. But it has a really, really glossy finish on it, which I don't like. And I've actually tried to matte over it a couple of times, and the gloss still comes through. So that's probably the only regret from that I really have.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's a problem with the product. It's I've clearly done something wrong. But it looks really nice. Like, it just works. Otherwise, from a display point of view, my biggest problem is that 90% of my 90% of my not products. What's the word?
Miniatures.
Miniatures, yes. 90% of the things that I've worked on were never finished. I've got lots of half-finished things. Like, they are not finished. I need to finish doing their tops, and then they will be finished. And then I need to base them. My Bot Wars stuff is probably really close. I didn't finish them because I kind of had a few issues, and yeah.
Same thing.
Yep. I ended up having a couple issues, and I kind of, they got dropped at one point. And at that point, I threw them all in a box, and I never wanted to look at them again. There's a few reasons for that, some of which I've spoken about openly, some of which I haven't, and I'm not going to go into it at this point. But they will probably never get finished. The biggest reason is that I wanted to cell shade them at the time, and I got about halfway through that process and just started to realize that I hated doing it. It's a massive learning curve. So I did it with my Marvel stuff as well, and in the case of the Marvel stuff, it was actually coming out really nicely. But I found doing it on the flat surfaces of the Bot War stuff just a little bit harder, because you have to go against the way that you're taught how to paint, which is already, it does numbers on my head. But at the same time, I just didn't. I struggled to get in my head the way I wanted it to look, and I could never. I was never happy with anything that I did on them. And so I never ended up finishing them because I kind of just lost the passion to do it, because I just found it frustrating. There was a point where I considered just spraying back over them and just painting them traditionally. Although I wouldn't need to respray them to do that. But then I dropped them and they shattered. And they have actually been fixed since, but I don't have the desire to finish them anymore. My Blood Angels I sold a long time ago, so they're never going to be displayed. I have a lot of stuff where there's certain models that are that I'm really proud of, but I don't really have a completed army that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
Even amongst my Malifaux stuff, like, there's some models in there that I'm really proud of. Probably my proudest one being there's a Dreadnought that's made out of beer barrels. I can't think what it's called right now. I was really, really proud of that, because I basically, with my Gremlins, I turned them all into pop culture references. And that became a pop culture reference for the Wiggles. So they were all dressed up in like Wiggles outfits and stuff. And unfortunately, because that particular model is very fragile, it's broken more times than I dare count. As has this one.
Yeah.
3 guesses what breaks on this most of the time. Actually, no, sorry. This isn't the one that broken. It was the other version of these that broke. But as proud as these as I was, I never actually finished highlighting any of them. Which is fine, I guess. But I really should do that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely be encouraging people to display stuff from a few different reasons. I think I've touched on the whole keep one of your old miniatures around so that you can refer back to it.
Yeah.
And see the progress that you've made. I would like to think that when I'm finished with these, that these are something that I could display. Whether they actually end up getting to that point is another question.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was an interesting point of discussion. We're always our worst critics when it comes to that. So
Yes,
I
we
think
are.
that there's a lot of us that are like, even if we're told that something looks nice, we don't generally see it. I have always had this thing of, if I get a compliment, rather than saying thank you, I kind of dismiss it, because this is part of my head that always wants to be humble, and I kind of go too far in that direction. It's one of the things I've been trying to do better this year, and that's one of the reasons why I did this. Because you know what?
Yeah.
If I force myself to display them, maybe I can get out of bad habits. But do you have a place to display your miniatures? If not, why not? Maybe somebody should push you to do that. Maybe that person should be you. It doesn't have to be this. It could just be a shelf on top of your computer or your paint station. Like, it could just be that. Like, it could be, like, that's, like, your current project, this is where the finished stuff goes, so that you can always refer back to it. And that way, when each model is getting better than the last, you can see the progress throughout the project. Project is the word I was looking for before. Or maybe it's the most recent army that you finished, or the first army that you finished, or that one project that was your first love, or whatever it is. Maybe it's a bit like mine, and it's kind of a little bit of everything. At one point, even though I'm not entirely proud of a lot of the paintwork, I had Entropy City set up, because this is my project. It wasn't really about the miniatures. It was about the motivation to get the game finished.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the motivation is, but if you can get a space to do it, I think you should try. Even if the shelf is rotating, like just a rotating thing of, I'm going to display this month and that next month.
Mm-hmm.
Or it starts as one miniature and then you add things to it. I don't know. That was my thought.
There's a lot of them.
Demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
Melbourne Figures Painting Collective are meeting right now. They started their meeting at 12 o'clock. It was 35 minutes ago. They will be there at the gaming arena until 5 o'clock this afternoon. If you are not doing anything, then you should probably head out and check them out. Otherwise, in theory, it should be this time next month. It's the last Sunday of every month. But if you follow Melbourne Figure Painting Collective on Facebook and or Instagram, you'll be able to keep up to date with when they're announced. Because they'll probably announce their next date at some point this week. That's why I'm showing today's, because they haven't announced it yet. Firestorm game, their Dropfleet Commander V2 tournament is coming up very shortly. It's on the 9th of November. That event had sold out. They had that much interest in it that they opened up more places so that more people can come. I don't know at the time of recording whether those places have also sold out or not, but if you're in the area, you'd be silly not to at least try. That's at Cardiff at Firestorm Games. It's a 1,000-point narrative event. Tickets are £25 online, or it's £26 in store. Spellen Spectacle is coming up. So this is a yearly event that takes place in the Netherlands. It's from the 9th of November until the 10th of November. The tickets are €17.95 a day. You cannot get a weekend pass that I could find. It was just the day pass. On that same day, at that same event, there is a Conquest Dutch World Tournament. It's a 2,000-point tournament. The tournament itself is a £35 entry.
Euro
entry. Archimunda, Syndicate Wars. This is coming up on the 16th and 17th of November from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. That's a narrative Necromunda campaign that's being run by the same people that did Ark earlier in the year. It's a $60 ticket for the 2-day event. Malifaux Bayou Brawl. I will not be there for this because this is the weekend I'm away at Ballarat. I'm so upset. So this is an event that's coming up. It's a friendly event for multiple people. It's a $5 entry. This takes place at the Gaming Arena on the 24th of November at 11 o'clock. They're playing a very unique format that I haven't actually seen before. Basically, it's a one-model event. It's a multiplayer game. Everybody has one model that you must pay for. You get 10 points. It cannot be a master. But basically, you get to pick one model. That is your model for the event, and everybody gets one model, and basically it's a free-for-all, is the idea. I've massively oversimplified that, but there is an event link. You can get more details in it. Like I said, I'd not come across this before. It kind of changes the game entirely in some ways, because there is no more synergy. It makes what you decide to take very hard, because it needs to be something that supports itself and can be self-reliant. I think from memory, the only thing you can't take is a master, but I could be wrong on that. But if you take the master, you have to pay for the master, so it would be a master that only costs 10 points. Check the link event; it'll have the details on there. CanCon is coming up in January 25th till the 27th at the Epic Exhibition Park in Canberra. There is also a Dropfleet Commander tournament happening there as well. This is the first time we've seen Dropfleet Commander there since pre-COVID. So if you're heading to CanCon and you're someone that's excited for version 2, you should be going. I know you two threw the question last episode whether I was going to be there or not. It's extremely unlikely. I probably won't have the opportunity to. Because that's probably when my colleague will be on leave, which means I won't have the option. And there is a Drop Squad Commander painting competition coming up. The event will eventually be announced on the Facebook group that's accidentally called Strike Team Commander Community. You should join that and only ever call it Drop Squad just to annoy everybody. That's what I do. So yeah, quite a few upcoming events. Socks. You bought stuff from Valhalla Hobby recently. What was your experience like?
Great little store. Lots of items they have. But no, Valhalla Hobby is a great store. A lot of products, a variety of sorts. I mean, they got card games, they've got TCGs, they've got role playing stuff, they got terrain, they've got all your niche style games. They've got Dropfleet, Drop Zone. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have Drop Squad when that comes out as well. They've got War Cradle Studio stuff. I mean, they got whatever you can think of, they can find as well. They're very community friendly, so great store. And if you use the code Tabled, you get 5% off on your first order of $100. So
or more.
Yep.
Thank you to those that support us. We really appreciate you. Like I said earlier, if you do support us, one of the perks that you have is that you get to listen to us record this live if you want to. You don't have to, but you can if you want to. They got to hear all of the mistakes I made while I kept on trying to start this episode at the beginning. You also get early access to all of the video content that we do. So probably the most recent examples of this is the Drop Bears video I had actually recorded 2 weeks prior to it going live. There is a Drop Squad video that's been up there for months at this point and won't see the light of day until the game is being launched, because there's just no point launching it until then. And yeah, so on, like, you get 24-hour access to almost everything that we do. You can find us at patreon.com/gettingtabled. Those funds go towards us running the podcast. It goes to helping us run our website. We've got upgrades to our website that we'd really love to be able to do. So any support that we can get would be massively appreciated. The website is gettingtabled.com. If you want to follow us on social media, the most active is facebook.com/gettingtabled. You should definitely subscribe to us on YouTube, which is youtube.com/gettingtabled. We have videos going out almost every week. Please subscribe. If you'd like to reach out to us for any reason, maybe you want to correct me on something that I've said, maybe there's a game out there that you think we should have a look at that we haven't covered before, maybe you have a game that you're in the middle of developing, like somebody that we're going to be speaking to next episode. You can reach out to us at gettingtabled@gmail.com. We have a Discord. The link will be in the description. It'll also be displayed on screen if you want to type it manually. You can find us at Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at gettingtabled. If you want to, you can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/JasonTheBruce. I stream casually. My most recent stream was a week and a half ago, I want to say. I started playing a game through of Resident Evil Village, because I haven't played a Resident Evil game since the original number 2. You also can follow me on Toy Reel. It's a similar format, but with we're looking at action figures and stuff. There was a live broadcast done Thursday night where we were looking at a lot of the Joy Toy stuff. The Warhammer Joy Toy stuff. We were looking at the Primark for the Ultramarines. We had a look at some images for the upcoming miniatures as well. I looked at a wrestling figure. I also looked at... What else did I look at? I looked at this awesome Vegeta that's been sitting on my desk ever since, who's just sitting there looking extremely grumpy. I'm really proud of how I made that look. And beast boxes, and there was Dread stuff, and like we look at all different sorts of stuff. So, anything from you, Socks?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.